Okay, so I think we can start now. Hello, dear participants. Welcome to the third peer learning webinar. Women entrepreneurs benefiting from inclusive support in innovation, investments, and transatlantic networking. Today, yet again, the WEgate community has brought together amazing women supporting organizations for the purpose of sharing best practices in the women's economic empowerment. My name is Elena Stojanovic from Foundation for Management and Industrial Research, one of the partners of the WEgate Consortia. Today, I will be your host and moderator. Within WEgate, we've had the honor to work with truly amazing women. These are not ordinary women, these are heroes establishing and leading women entrepreneurship organizations, building networks and coalitions, but most importantly, they support each other. They're powerful, insightful, strong, and amazing. All this provides us with motivation and incentives to guide and support the WEgate community with new powerful tools. Peer learning webinars are just one of the tools for strengthening practice, collaboration, and culture of learning within the community. We're always looking for a variety of practices, addressing numerous aspects of entrepreneurship development process. But today we have incredible women that will share more on the importance of women entrepreneurship organizations, influencing policies, providing networking opportunities, and creating a dynamic and diverse investment ecosystem. We will also have the opportunity to attain direct insight in the use of public support and role models to encourage the presence of women in business and favor an inclusive approach to innovation, share practices and importance of transatlantic networking, lobbying, and public policy creation for supporting women entrepreneurship. Finally, I would like to set some ground rules on how the webinar will be run. Each participant, except the moderator and the speakers, of course, will be muted. After the presentations, there will be questions and answers part open for discussion. If anyone would like to ask a question, feel free to write it in the chat box, but with mode to all participants. So the moderator, I could see the question and read them during the question and answers part of the session. Please have in mind that the webinar will be recorded and uploaded on the YouTube channel of WEgate. So let's start. I would like to welcome our first speaker, Dr. Giulia Sirigu, Senior Innovation and Growth Specialist at Innovate UK Edge at Inventia and Project Manager at the Italian Chamber of Commerce and Industry for the UK. She will be presenting more on the inclusive approaches to innovation in the UK. Giulia, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Elena, and I'll share my slides with you before. Just let me know if you can see them. Can you see them?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, brilliant. Just give me 1 second. I need to close this part. All right, because we just rehearsed this, but I cannot see my slides. Just a second, sorry. I don't know what's happening. I'll try to share again them. Maybe some glitch. Okay. Try to share them again and to put them in presentation mode now.
Yes,
can you see them now?
Yes. Yes, okay, now. Great.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, first of all, to everybody that attending this webinar. It's a pleasure for me for being here, and thank you very much also to WEgate team for inviting me. I work, as Elena has already mentioned, for Innovate UK Edge, for one of the partners in the UK. This is Inventia. I'm Senior Innovation and Growth Specialist, and I provide support to businesses. And on top of that, I represent the Italian Chamber of Commerce and Industry for the UK in the northwest of England. So why I'll be talking about innovation and why women do innovation and do it very well, actually. Here in the UK, we're trying to develop a better approach, and we are trying to input and to favor the presence of women in innovation. Before starting, I'll give you a bit more of information about myself, and after that I'll explain you what we are doing, which areas we are focusing on, and which are the concrete actions we are undertaking here in the UK. I hope they can be an inspiration for you, and please feel free to get in touch if you want any information, or if you want any, literally a friendly approach, literally to what you are doing. More than happy to have a chat. Okay, as mentioned before, I got experience in growth and internationalization. I got PhD in foreign policy, so as you can see, I'm not I don't have a technical background, and this is because sometimes innovation is misunderstood. Innovation can be innovation in processes, can be innovation, technological innovation. It can be innovation applied to many sectors. I got more than 16 years of international experience in developing strategic relations between different countries, between America, Latin America, Middle East, and Europe. And I really enjoy helping companies. But on the other side, having an academic background, I've worked as lecturer for many years at the university in the UK, and I'm specialized in gender global relations, and this is something that passionate me a lot. And for this reason, I decided to reinterpret my experience, my academic experience in the business sector. The network that has been created in the UK, as mentioned before, is called the Women in Innovation Network, which has been launched quite recently in 2016, but that is having very good impact on the female entrepreneur community here in the UK. And so what we are trying to do, we encourage women working in innovative roles and helping them in their business growth journey. And this is what I really enjoy to do. And I want to give you a bit more information about this, and a bit more information about the background and the landscape that is present here in the UK for those of you that don't know it or that are curious about it. Just a last information about myself. I'm also a mentor at the NatWest Accelerator in Manchester, where I support female founders and companies, as well as being proactive member of the Women Leading in Business network at the Alliance Manchester Business School, and in the Women International Networking. I'm also part of the steering group of Founder North. I'll mention it a little bit later. That is a collective of women investors, business experts that are supporting female founders to raise funds in the north of England. And this is because there is a big difference between London and the northern part of England. Most of the funds are focused in London, and this is of course generating many problems to women that are trying to raise funds, and this adding a layer of difficulty, intersectional difficulty, to women that are struggling raising funds, to women that are not based in the capital, to women sometimes that are from different ethnic minorities, single mothers. So we all see these different layers of difficulties that women need to face when they want to work on a business career. So today I'll focus on 4 key topics: network, role models, support, and inspiration. The 4 of them are all necessary in order to help and to grow as in business, and for women they are particularly important. And here in the UK we try to work on all of them in order to integrate them, in order to provide the best support as possible to those women that were trying to approach the innovation and the business environment, and they were having some difficulties. As mentioned before, I'm one of the specialists for Innovate UK. Innovate UK is part of one of the ministries, the innovation agency for the base of the ministry for the industry and the economic growth. There are there is a good number of funds that are provided to businesses here in the UK, fortunately also during the COVID-19 pandemic. But in terms of innovation, we focus on the innovation part. So here with these logos, you can see all the different parts of the UK Research and Innovation Ministry, and we are the purple one, the Innovate UK, because we focus specifically on innovation. Innovate UK is part of the UK ecosystem. So being the innovation agency in the UK, we work with different type of stakeholders, we are different partners within the same Innovate UK. More specifically, within Innovate UK, I work for a branch that is providing support to businesses that is called Innovate UK Edge. This part of the branch work together with the Enterprise Euro Network, providing also internationalization support to those companies that want to go international, want to expand their business, but they need a bit of support. So we can provide support in terms of internationalization strategy in order to for them to find partners on the international level, but also to find, for instance, distributors to know better the ecosystems present in other countries. So first of all, why are we talking about the importance of having more women in business, more women in entrepreneurship, more women in innovation? First of all, because diversity. So, and here we are not just talking about female diversity, gender diversity, we're talking about diversity in terms of ethnicity, in terms of age, and which is another big problem for women most of the time in the business sector. We're talking about different abilities and so when we're talking about diversity, it's proven, scientifically proven. There is a lot of research on this, that it led to economic growth. And companies with above average diversity produce a greater proportion of revenue from innovation, which is a good news. So it's 45% of the total, more than the other companies that are having below average diversity, which are producing only the 26% of revenue from innovation. So diverse teams, so including women, are performing better. And I think that is something we need to stress, because we always stress the difficulties we're having as women, but we need to stress also what we are doing very well. And this is one of these things. And the 90% of innovation related advantage translates into overall better financial performance. And this is particularly important because it means that there is a lot of potential. So with a little bit of support, female businesses can perform much better. And on top of this, diverse teams are better positioned to unlock innovation that drives market growth. And this is because diversity further enables non-linear novel thinking and adaptability that the innovation requires. So if you are not able to adapt, if you are not able to see things from a different perspective, from a different angle, it's very difficult to do innovation. It's very difficult to provide that change that the society, the business ecosystem, and the innovation ecosystem needs. Take into account that women influence a big part of the global consumer spending. That is more or less 20 trillion of dollars per year, and they make 85% of consumer purchasing decisions. So it's a big part of the economy, the global economy. So despite this, regardless this, women, so female-led entrepreneurs, only represent 1% of corporate and governmental spend, and this is a shame. And I'm not ashamed to say that it's a shame, actually, because there is something that is inherently bad in this, and this is because this is not economically convenient to anybody, and this is not this type of discrimination is not useful to anybody. So what are we doing to try to improve the situation? Because at the end of the game, it's all about actions. In order to boost innovation, we need to think about alternative viewpoints and how to improve them, how to boost them, how to encourage them, and how to help companies, to help female entrepreneurs, to help diverse entrepreneurs to find new and diverse markets where they can insert themselves. We need a structural change, which is very difficult to obtain, but if we are providing support and if companies are aware of this support, it's much easier to generate a small change that is that can create a bigger change in the longer term. So what are we doing? So before I was mentioning, we are focusing on network, role model, support, and inspiration. Network, first of all, because, well, women, well, from a business perspective, they behave differently. From a business and economic perspective, they work very well in team, but well, there is also the necessity to provide a good environment that is collaborative. Role models are very important because if we want to make changes, we need to think about also future generations, and we need to inspire. So passing on the point number 4, actually, we need to inspire those women that are still reluctant, those companies that are still not very energetic, and they are still doubting about the possibility to enter into the market. But in order to do this, there is the need of support, and there is plenty of support. The only problem is that sometimes there is too much support, too diverse support, and people don't know where to tap into. So signposting this is particularly important. And take into account the warm connections can make the difference. Just recently, a couple of months ago, the new Ellison review, the new Ellison report came out, and they put a number on this. So, well, female entrepreneurs that are having work connections perform 7 times better than those women in entrepreneurship that are not receiving warm connections, and these warm contacts are often actually happening in a more male-dominated ecosystem. So if we work to provide these warm connections, we can definitely improve quite quickly the results of the ecosystem. So what are we doing in the UK? So with Innova UK, we in 2016 we established a Women in Innovation Award that is providing funds, is providing support to women that are doing innovation. But from a funding perspective, there is, as I was mentioning before, there is also a lack of presence of women, of VCs, investors, female VCs and investors, but also there is a lack in the number of investments that are benefiting from women. So there is this lack of diversity in investment that is continually flagged. For instance, for every £1 in the UK of UK venture capital funding, only £1 is going to businesses with all female funders, and yet 89 pence goes to businesses with all male funders. So it's a big number, this one. And if we're thinking about it in a scale, it really makes a difference. So we need to change this. We need to change how female funders are perceived from male investors, because most of them are male investors. But we need also to have more VC, women VC, female VCs, and investors that are able to see and interpret things from a different point of view. So expanding mentorship and networking, these and providing warm contacts can be an answer. So take into account that also it's very important to support families, because only 46% of female parent entrepreneurs identify this as a very important barrier. And well, there is the need to improve this. So what we found with Innova UK in 2016, when we started working on the Women in Innovation program, is that only 40% of the applicants to the governmental grants were women. So 1 in 7 Innova UK applications were led by women. And is dreadful, because we are not even talking about investments in this case. We are talking about governmental funds. So there was a need to take an action. So through the creation of the Women in Innovation Award, to the increasing the number of specialists and advisors supporting female-led companies, in the last years we managed to increase of 70% the number of applications led by women in the UK, and we hope to see this number increasing in the next years. Of course, well, in this case, when we are talking about women, we are talking also about women from different backgrounds. And this is because, again, as mentioned before, the intersectionality makes the difference, and all the different layers of difficulty are generating a wider number of bias for women. And so we want to provide more opportunities. As mentioned before, also, there is a big difference between London and the other areas of the UK. Most of the funds, most of the startups go to London, but London is an increasingly expensive cities, very competitive, very difficult to enter there. So what we are trying to do is also to relocate how the funds are distributed in the UK. One good initiative, and not because I'm part of the steering group, because I really think it's a very good initiative, is the first initiative that is covering all the type of the different levels of growth for businesses, and that is trying to support all of them, and it's called Fund the North. Fund the North is putting together different VCs, different investors. It was a program launched by North Invest, but now we're having investors and VC from all over the north of England. And the aim is literally to redirect and to create more funds and more investments in the north for companies based in the north, in order to rebalance this type of difficulty that northern companies are finding. So what are we doing with the Women in Innovation Awards? Well, we are covering all the 4 areas I've mentioned before. We want to give women the possibility and the potential to become leaders in business innovation, but we want them to also to be a role model, to be an inspiration for the other businesses. And we are talking about women coming from different regions, from working in different sectors, and they're having different age ranges, and that are from different ethnicity. What the companies need to have is a clear vision of the business, and they need to be the critical stage for the growth, and they need to, of course, to develop a novel idea or an innovation. Well, we are sector agnostic. We think about innovation. When we are talking about innovation, we are talking about technical innovation, but also innovation in processes. And the award is trying to give a pot of money to develop a project to these winners, the support, the specific one-to-one support they need on specific areas, and the possibility to become a role model, to have more visibility, to inspire other women. On top of that, of course, they can receive the Innovate UK Edge support, which is in other European countries delivered by the Enterprise Europe Network. So it's a type of tailored support for innovation in businesses, for small and medium enterprises, that is including the internationalization support that is delivered also by the other Enterprise Europe Network partners. This year, good news, with a big increase, we have got more than the triple of the application for the Women in Innovation Awards. And we decided, Innovate UK decided to increase the number of awards from 10 to 40. And it has been a great success. The awardees have been nominated in March, and now they are starting with the programs. They are starting working with their advisors, and one of them, and I'm very, very proud of the 2 women in innovation that I'm supporting. One is in the health sector, while the other one is working on in the AI sector, for instance, and all developing amazing projects. Why? So I'm talking about this because it's important, I think, to inspire next generations, women that are present in different countries. And I think it's very important to think literally behind the box and outside the box. So what we need to see is what we are having inside, but also what we are having outside, and how to inspire people around us. Because if not, it'll be too difficult, and it's much easier to collaborate, to provide inspiration. And what I always say also to the companies I'm supporting is, ask for support, because there is plenty of support, but if you don't ask, you won't be receiving the support, because people don't know that you need the type of support. So asking, well, I know it's guaranteed. I mean, but in order to receive a positive response, you always need to ask for it. And you're saying a lot of very good answers, I think. So I finished my presentation. I don't know if I'm on time or not. Here there is my email address.
That's fine.
And my LinkedIn. Thank you very much to everybody.
Thank you very much, Julia. It was really inspiring presentation. It's really amazing what you do. Sometimes women really do need support and a push to achieve their success and full potential. On the other hand, we as women supporting organizations should stimulate our governments to work more in those fields. I see that there are questions for you, but they will be answered at the end, as we already mentioned. Thank you once again. So we're moving on to our next speaker, Ms. Liva Echval, the founder of Female Founders of the Future. She will be presenting about diversity commitment, an initiative where investors and matchmakers have formulated and signed common goals for diversity and investment in Denmark. Liva, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you so much, Elena, and very inspiring listening to what's going on in the UK. A lot of common interest there and learnings, so thank you for that. Yes, my name is Liva, and I am the founder of Female Founders of the Future. But let me take you back a step before I started that. It actually all started at my background is I've been teaching at the Danish Technical University in entrepreneurship, leadership, sustainability, those kind of subjects and innovation that all leads to entrepreneurship together. And then I have had my own company where I've been coaching and facilitating workshops for founders at accelerator programs, hubs, incubators, mainly the university-driven programs, but also corporate programs. And I stopped counting after 500 founders and their teams. But in topics like entrepreneurial leadership, the classical pitch training, business model canvassing, value proposition design, investor relations, all of these topics, the high performance startup teams that are part of creating success for your startup and to move towards the ambitions that you have. And of course, among all this, I stumbled upon numbers in regards to gender and entrepreneurship and other parameters for diversity. And in 2019, I said yes to becoming the ambassador of Women's Entrepreneurship Day, an American organization. I'm ambassador here in Denmark, which led me to be invited to Brussels for a WEgate event. And that is where I was introduced to awesome men and women across Europe working on this subject and matter, and also had research on this subject. And when I moved into conversation on entrepreneurship, the conversation was how to challenge your assumption, how to build product market fit. You were focusing kind of on the ball of what you were building, versus when I dived into the conversation where the perspective of gender and diversity as such came into the conversation became sticky and emotional and difficult to have in so many places. And in all the midst of all of this, I started Female Founders of the Future. And one of the first things we did together, just to say I'm not alone in this, lots of awesome people around me. And may I mention my partner, Stine Kolding Alstrup, that has been with me from day one, 2019. What we did was to formulate guidelines to even have a conversation on this matter. So the guidelines were, one of the first guidelines was avoid generalization about men and women, avoid solution that were fix the men, fix the women. So some of these principles actually carried us through all we've done since. So we've held Women's Entrepreneurship Day 2 years in a row now, with a focus on access to network, role models, funding, knowledge in regards to how to start and scale your own business. We've ran the program Female Founders in Tech together with Trade Council in New York, award-winning program with 14 startups with minimum of 1 female founders, all worked on getting their company ready to internationalization or new markets if that was where they were at. And then we also launched a report, Return on Diversity, Unlocking the Untapped Potential. It's right here. I can send a link to everyone interested, with a guide, not only documenting all the numbers, we've just heard a lot about that, but also to say, so what can startups actually do to not only be born global in their setup, but also be born diverse in their setup, and all the benefits from doing that? And what can investors do to get access to the huge potential that is out there. So that's some of the things we've done. And then I would also today focus more on the initiative we're working on right now and recently launched the diversity commitment. So one of the things, we launched the 7 guidelines, we hosted out the 10 recommendations on what ecosystem stakeholders can do. And one of the recommendations where we saw a need in that whole ecosystem was that comparable partners were to commit each other on diversity. You say a committing community. Just like governments around the globe have signed the Sustainable Development Goals to actually make that structural change, that's where we saw a potential to like-minded stakeholders within the ecosystem, that they go together and take ownership of their role and responsibility in the ecosystem and say, what can they do and how can they live together? Because what we saw was what we heard here, Julia said as well, the distribution of funding in Denmark in 2020 was 95% was invested in male-only teams, founding teams, 4% in mixed, so gender mixed teams, and 1% in female-only founding teams. And then in Denmark, we have 25% of our entrepreneurs are women, and thus you could say all types of entrepreneurs do not need venture funding. So are there only 1%, then it's all equal, right? If there's only 1% that are startup founders. But surveys done in Denmark shows that there are 22% of our startup founders are women. That was a rather huge potential of deals being left at the table. And here, this structural issue is not to be solved by one individual alone. That's why we started inviting investors from different stages of investments. So from business angel investment to Series A, as that as such is a feeding chain in itself. If you don't have the early investments, you will not get Series A investment. You don't start at Series A investment on an unknown company. So that in itself is let's say a micro ecosystem. So we invited partners that represent our investment ecosystem in Denmark around the table to formulate their own goals in regards to investment processes and internal operations. And let me start with internal operations for a second, because what study shows is that if there's diversity within the organization of the investment fund, they are more likely to attract diverse pool of founders. So it's not only where you invest, but also how you organize yourself as a fund. And then, of course, the investments themselves. We are facing multiple problems in the world. There's a diverse pool of problems out there that needs to be changed by solved through entrepreneurship by a diverse pool of people. Those investing diversifying your investment portfolio can have so many benefits, besides the fact that you're distributing risk in industries and on founders and on technologies and on companies. All of these benefits are shown for the investors in this. So we invited, and it was not easy, just to say, it was not easy to invite all of these organizations to actually say yes to sit around a table. Both like, what's in it for us? That was one question. And also the other question was, okay, what we saw in the beginning was that the conversation when it came to gender, how do we actually, when it becomes a sticky conversation, no one wants to enter. It's actually rather excluding. So what we wanted to was drive this inclusive conversation on this topic and manner. And we did that by sticking to the facts, sticking to the potential, unlocking the untapped potential of what is out there, and from the investor side, for them to avoid leaving deals at the table. So we have had since this year, the conversation of having everyone say yes was quite long. But then we have had 4 sessions this spring, leading us to the formulated goals that if I can share my screen for a second here, just to show what we are talking about. So what have the investors signed and who has signed? So everyone believes and that what they've signed in, which we will get back to, is in regards to the investment process. As I mentioned before, 98% of the venture funding is right now invested into male-only teams. This is a report from Unconventional Ventures published this year. And instead, we could have signed goals, we could have formulated goals that were aimed at minimum amount of money invested into startups with a female founder on board, right? But what we did here is to say, if we were to take the perspective of diversity, the benefit of diversity is that you had group thinking. The opposite of diversity is monoculture, is homogeneity. So more of the same enhances group thinking, lack of critical thinking, like all of these things, and actually influence the decisions, business decisions made. So what we wanted to do with these goals is to say, there's a max of more of the same. There's a max of gender homogeneity. There's a max to investing only in one type of founders. In this case, focusing on gender. So that is why it states that max 80% of startups added in investment portfolio with a male-only founding team is to be reached within the next 3 years for the signing partners. Just like max 80% of money in new portfolio startups are to be invested into male-only founding teams. Again, out of the thinking of maximum of more of the same. And then also so that it's both the amount of investments as much as the money invested. And then what investors can do, they can lean in to the diversity within each portfolio companies. Once you have invested in a company, you as an investor can lean into ensuring that they do not grow homogeneity, but they grow diversity. And that is one of the goals we've set here, max gender homogeneity, which of course also is max of a lot of women in the same founding team and growing women with women, just as much as it is men with men. And then within internal operation that set goals. And for those organizations that have investment collective or business angel members, that has been also added here. Just because, simply because, and looking into both the investment team, the partner group, and collective and business angels, and of course the entire organization. And here again, the max gender homogeneity, max of more of the same, basically. And then what we did was we looked at other initiatives across Europe and the globe, and we saw that one of the things was, so they signed a goal, but they did not measure, track, or report on the goals, and if they did, it was not public knowledge. And what we've done here is to include a notch in terms of all signing partners are measuring, tracking, and reporting annually to the diversity commitment, and it will be published publicly as an incentive to do better and also to match up against each other. And so also to commit to publicly share this progress and learnings, because I am quite sure that some will have learnings throughout each year, both on what went well, what went wrong, what is needed to learn. So having that entrepreneurial mindset into the commitment was really important to us. And then the other commitments, just like we heard, Julia, that network and role models, etc., are really important, that were also some of the commitments that we designed into this initiative, is they all need to make an action plan on how to reach the goals within their organization, because these organizations that have signed are both public, so some have other political requirements than the more private organizations here, and also the fact that one is LP and venture fund, others are only VCs, and others are matchmakers. So they all have to kind of make their own action plan mapped up to their own organization, and then intentionally redesign work processes for diversity. So where unintentionally biased behavior is influencing the decision-making in who and what to invest in, who and what to invite for meetings, who and what to recruit, etc., etc. They have committed themselves for intentional redesigning work processes. Proactively promote diverse pool of role models. So and here again, diversity is of course much more than gender, but in relation to these goals, gender is an option. But of course, also diversity in regards to technologies, markets, problems solved, diversity in terms of nationality, religion, what may not be, educational background, or the other parameters of diversity. We encourage them to promote that. And then participate actively in ecosystem activities with a goal to motivate more female founders to enter the deal flow. And also to seek speaker and juror engagement, and add, which is also really important, this is year one. So in a year, we will publish a report on what has been learned, and then we can look into adding diversity beyond gender, based on the learnings of each annual report. Since what we are today is that some of the stakeholders has today not documented anything, not on gender, not on age, in regards to parameters of diversity. So getting started on that is year one, including new goals on diversity beyond gender is year two. So that's how we, over time, will include other perspectives of diversity as the group learns more. And then some of the organizations that were with us, some of them were actually doing quite well when we looked at the numbers right now, and some of them were starting at scratch. But regardless of your starting point, all organizations must proactively create incremental improvements. So even though you feel like you're home safe now, maybe you can even increase more. So that is also part of this. And those that have signed with us are the public actors are Vækstfonden, our growth foundation, and Innovation Foundation. We have the venture funds by founders, Bumble Ventures, Seed Capital, and Pre-Seed Ventures. And then we have the two matchmakers, Danish Business Angel Association and Danske Bank Growth and Impact Department, that are all matchmaking among startups and business angels. So these were some of the what I would like to share with you today. We are looking to make the initiative Nordic and European over time. It's a non-profit initiative. One of the requirements actually for the investors to join us is that this public, the data shared is to be publicly shared for everyone to get access to this knowledge. And thus we are only working on donations and funding in regards to this initiative. And we are looking for funding to fund our work over time. And what are we doing over time? We are making not only a committing community, we are making a learning community and an action community, together with all these investors that are joining us in and sharing knowledge faster among the investors, so that you do not all have to invent the deep plate of diversity and how to redesign work processes for deal flow engagement, investment, due diligence, etc., etc. So that was that for me now. And if there are anyone who have questions later on, you are welcome to ask them. And I will share in the chat the report I mentioned and a link to our website if anyone wants to read the goals closely and look into who signed the goals. Yeah, that was it for now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Liva. It was a very interesting presentation. Many startups feel excluded from funding opportunities, so this is a way how to make the system more diverse. So our last speaker for today is Agnieszka Weiner. She's Executive Director of Canada Europe Women in Business, and she will give an overview of the comprehensive economic trade agreement among Canada and the European Union. Agnieszka, the floor is yours.
Thank you and welcome. So thank you for actually inviting me. I'm very honored. I'm sharing my presentation now. I hope everybody can see it well. So I'm a little bit, you know, an outlier today because I don't really present activities. I would like to present to you the framework of doing business with Canada that is now available to the European companies. What I do in my life, I am an international cooperation consultant and mobility specialist. So in my work with the European Union in Canada, we work a lot in the field of trade. We support businesses. And why I got interested in women entrepreneurship, it was because when we were trying to look for speakers, for good practices, for success stories of European and Canadian businesses who do business together, we had a very hard time finding women. You know that we you always want to show women on the panel, and it was almost impossible. So after 2 years of that, I thought that it would be actually useful to start a network of women in business who do women between EU and Canada, regardless if they are in Canada or in the European Union. And this is how I founded this initiative, Canada Europe Women in Business, Canada Europe Femmes en Affaires. We are bilingual in this country, so we have the two names. So this is the story a little bit. One of the principles and activities that we do is to raise awareness about the legal framework and the actual opportunities for small and medium enterprises if they want to do business with Canada or with the European Union if they are Canadian ones. So here I am. I wanted to talk about the trade agreement that entered into force in 2017. Not many businesses are actually aware of that. So I hope this will be useful. Wait, why this doesn't go? Uh-oh. Okay. So why do we have the trade agreement? Pre-Brexit, at least, Canada was the EU's 12th most important trade partner, while EU was fourth largest investor. As you can see, we had very strong relationship, but the barriers to trade were really high. So both EU and Canada entered the trade agreement that removed basically 99% of all tariffs. And here you can see in light blue is the tariffs before the trade agreement, and in dark blue and the yellow are the tariffs that were gradually eliminated. So as you can see, after 2017, basically the tariffs are still only in the sector of cars and agriculture. Everything else, if you are a business, you can export to Canada with no tariff. What else is interesting? Public procurement. By the way, today at 10, we here at the delegation of the European Union to Canada, we are organizing a training on public procurement in Canada for the European small and medium enterprises, if you are interested. So this is the first time actually that two industrialized regions have a trade agreement that covers all level of the government procurement. So if you want to sell anything to a municipality in Canada or to a school in Canada, you can do it. It's not very easy, but there are many tools that can help you, and I will touch upon that later on. But this is what is actually encouraged by the European Union. We are encouraging all businesses to participate in the bids for public procurement. Another thing is that it's much easier to export technical products. So CETA facilitates technical equivalence for rules, regulations, and standards. And there is a specialized committee that works on the issues that are maybe more problematic. So if you want to export, usually it should be very easy. You should even have automated border procedure when you do it. But if you encounter issues on the Canadian side, there is a specialized body you can actually ask for help and for intervention. Then last but not least, what is also interesting about this agreement is the ease of mobility. Facilitation of temporary mobility is again a very innovative and new element of a trade agreement. I'm not talking about European Union. We, our trade agreement is amazing. We have the mobility, but it's not always the case under trade agreement. So with Canada, what happened? We agreed that there is almost no paperwork mobility for several types of temporary workers. These are intra-company transferees, investors, business visitors, but what is also interesting, independent professionals and contractual service providers. So if your company has a service, you can send a person for some time to Canada to, for example, deliver post-transaction services. Now, what is also interesting, we have here facilitated movement of professionals, also because we agreed on mutual recognition of professional qualifications. And this will, of course, take time, but this is again a novelty, it's much easier to move. Last but not least, we have a facility of investment. So there is increased protections and security for investors. As the result, EU has greatly improved its presence in Canada. So export of everything actually have grown. So it only tells you that it's easier, and we really encourage everybody to look into this opportunity. I have also a success story. So in our work with the network of women in business, we held every 2 months coffees with women who actually do that transatlantic move. And one of them is Tatiana Duansley. She's from Vancouver, but it doesn't really matter, because it's what I found interesting about her is how she uses the trade agreement to cooperate with Europe. So Tatiana is a designer originally from Cuba, but she lives in Canada, and she entered cooperation with manufacturers in Portugal. So she designs products made of cork, which are produced in Portugal and then imported to Canada. So the same is happening with her second line of business, which is design uniforms. She designs specialized uniforms, again produced in Portugal, imported to Canada, but then she exports them very often back to Europe, which I find interesting. So, and this is possible because there are no additional costs really to her business model. Now, after I hope I inspired you to use the framework at hand, I wanted to tell you a little bit how you can reach out and seek help. So first of all, I wanted to tell you more about us, our organization. We are basically non-profit. We are volunteers based. There is no cost to be our member. What we do, we try to twin women entrepreneurs from both sides of the Atlantic for the peer learning. And we basically want to do more networking, support learning, knowledge building through research projects, but we also support business development if needed. And then we engaged with universities and business schools to raise awareness about European and Canadian markets. And what is also interesting for us is that we are trying to go outside of the diaspora business model, because what you will see very often in the transatlantic relations, export-import goes through the diaspora networks. So if you are Italian, I'm sorry, Julia, very often you just go to your Italian, the diaspora in Canada or in the US, and you do business with them. Or the other way around, the Canadian of the Italian origin would go automatically towards Italian Chamber of Commerce or Italian businesses in Italy to seek the connection. And this is obvious because this is easier. But they would not think that maybe they should go, I don't know, to Latvia. Maybe that would be easier. But there is this lack of openness of thinking that European Union is one market really, and it should be used as such. If you want more information, I would, this presentation will be shared, I assume. So I put here 2 links to webinars about finding the business partner in Canada and how to export in Canada. They are both given by experienced women in business. So this is interesting. And if you want to know more about these opportunities, there are 2 sources that are, I think, important to know. So European Enterprise Network has its representative for Canada, which is the European Chamber of Commerce West. Apart from that, we have also European Union Chamber of Commerce in Canada, in Toronto, that has strong links with all European chambers of commerce present in Canada. And I want to say upfront that there are not every country has its Chamber of Commerce in Canada present. This is why it's very good to reach out to the European organizations, because they will be helping you regardless of your nationality in a way, right? So if you want to know more, if you felt inspired to do business with Canada, please write me. Find me on the LinkedIn. I'm the only Agnieszka Weiner, I think, on the LinkedIn. So it will be easy. And thank you for your attention. I'm sorry. I just want to say one thing, because I know that we have people from the UK here. CETA does not really apply to the UK anymore, but there is another trade agreement that is basically almost the same. Specifically for the UK, it entered into force in April.
Okay, thank you very much for your presentation. You said about your LinkedIn, you can share it in the chat, so the participants who want to connect can connect with you and ask you additional questions. Thank you, ladies. Now we move on to the Q&A session. I know that Agnieszka should leave in several minutes, so if you allow me, I will ask one question to her first. It's about, according to experience, what are the challenges women entrepreneurs mostly face when they decide it is time to expand and start exporting? You're muted, sorry.
Could you repeat the question? I'm sorry, because
no problem. What are the challenges women entrepreneurs mostly face when they decide to export and expand their market?
So I would say it depends where you go. Thankfully, in Canada, it's much easier, because I would say that the culture here is very much open to women in business. This is why sometimes I tell women to go beyond the diaspora networks, because very often, and it hurts me to say this, but there are some European countries from which I would say that the diaspora is more conservative than the Canadian context. And they are even more conservative than people back at home, you know, in Europe, because they are still in these old ways of doing things. So very often it's much more difficult for women to go through the diaspora and the networks than just to enter the Canadian context. But I would say that the problem is that still the women-led companies are smaller, so they have less funding, for example, to pay lawyers to help them with the procurement work,
administrative work.
Yeah, exactly. So I want to say that, for example, if you are in the business of the clean tech, European Union has set up a special program. It's called Low Carbon Action.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are a small or medium-sized enterprise who would like to send or sell that their innovation on the Canadian market, this program will do the administrative work for you.
Oh, that's good
So,
to know.
you know, there are few elements that can be solved.
So women entrepreneurs can approach to you and find more information on everything they need to know about.
Yeah, exactly. So this is actually, you can always approach, as I said, the European Union Chambers of Commerce, because they will have that information, or the EU delegation in Canada, or me. So we are here to help.
Great to hear that. Thanks once again. I saw that Julia was very effective and answered all the questions in the chat.
I think I missed some of them, because, but feel free to ask questions, ladies.
Oh, okay. Yes, so participants, feel free to ask questions. If anything is not answered, you saw that the speakers share their LinkedIn profile, so I hope it's okay they ask you. And if not, you can send email to us, and then we will resend to the speakers. I have one question for Julia. Why innovation, and why do you mean by innovation? Is it tech companies only, or it's wider?
No, as I was mentioning before, is when we are talking about innovation, we are talking about literally every type of innovation. So in our minds, when we're talking about innovation, we're talking about the techie that is working with computers, the proper nerd, you know, and it's not just about that. Well, people behind innovation, normal people. I mean, really, believe me. And I'm the cohort of women I'm working with, they're amazing women, and not only women, also men, to be very, very supportive men, which we really, really need, to be honest with you. Because again, as Liva was mentioning, when we are talking about diversity, we are talking about having both women and men involved, to have a balanced teams, balanced ethnicities within the team, different genders, different religions, different abilities, different ages, and it's all about that. And this is what is important for innovation. So when we are talking about innovation, at the end of the game, we are talking about people with certain technical abilities, but also people that are having the idea, but they don't know how to do it. And so they need to reach out those technical people with those technical skills that are able to concretely realize it. But doing innovation doesn't mean that you need to be able to code. I'm not able to code. It's a shame, again, but I'm not able to code. But if I have to establish a company that is doing innovation, that is using AI, or that needs coding, and what I need to do is to be able to reach out the right people. And this is the key thing. So for this reason, before I was talking about being inspired, but also be innovative and be connected. Because at the end of the game, if you're able to tap into the right people, you're able to realize dreams, literally. And you're able to think about how I've got this problem, and I don't know how to sort it out. I think this could be a good idea, but I don't know how to realize it. But I know this person that could help me, or I can ask support to this other person, and maybe she or he can connect me to another person. Or I know that they are producing these type of materials in this country, and I need to reach out to another country. So there are the Chamber of Commerce, both European, and I totally agree with Agnieszka, sometimes the diasporas, and I'm the manager of the Italian Chamber of Commerce, sometimes the diasporas can be much more conservative than the people living in the country. So don't think about just one network. Open the doors and be open to receive support. And even if we are women, sometimes we feel more comfortable to talk with other women. Sometimes there are men that are much more supportive than other women. So we need to think about that too. It's not about closing doors, it's about opening them. And so when we start embracing the type of mentality, we'll definitely do innovation, because we are open to new things. And at the end of the game, innovation, well, is about new things. It's about something.
It's about new things, yes. So thank you, Julia. There is one question for Liva in the chat. How can we join the female founders of the future?
Well, you can, the most active way is to go onto LinkedIn and Google Female Founders of the Future. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, and Google Female Founders of, search for Female Founders of the Future. And here we have a LinkedIn page. And if you follow that LinkedIn page, then you can see what we are doing. We are not doing a network at the moment, but we always network any platform that's, well, use my email, my LinkedIn, follow each other on different social media platforms, and as thus network that way. So that would be a way to do it.
Okay, great. Thank you. And another question was, how do you plan to replicate this initiative in other regions, in other countries?
Yes. So we've already there's always already other actors than those I showed that have signed. Others are already reaching out to us. They want to sign and participate as well. It is extremely valuable for the investors to share the knowledge among each others and together stand shoulder by shoulder and ensure that the ecosystem becomes future safe, let's say, for a diverse future. And we have been in contact with investors across the Nordics and been approached by investors in Poland. So for anyone to reach out, and then let's figure out what the goals may sound like in other regions, because maybe they're the same, maybe there are different versions. Because in Denmark, we have some of the lowest numbers in amount of entrepreneurs. Thus, the ambition for the numbers could be quite higher in other regions. So that is, we always go for ambitious, realistic in everything we do. But of course, we want more on board, and we've talked to other initiatives across Europe. This is not a Danish problem. It is a global problem.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, ladies. And now I would like to wrap up this webinar with a quite exciting announcement. In the upcoming period, we are organizing WEgate Training Academy. It's a 2-day online training program for strengthening women entrepreneurship organization capacities. It will take place on 10th and 11th of June. The training academy is consisted of 4 training modules: public policy creation, that will educate organizations how to contribute on improving the ecosystem, policy, institutional, and legal framework for women entrepreneurship across Europe. The theme of the second module is advocacy and lobbying, explaining the role of social movements, advocacy groups, and different forms of activism towards bringing change in society. The third module is for business supporting services, aiming at increasing the expertise and capacities in supporting their clients, directly or in cooperation with other stakeholders or experts, improving their business support skills and equip them with practical knowledge that they can use in their supporting programs and services for business development of women entrepreneurs. And finally, the fourth module is access to finance, and it will be about how to run a successful access to finance program for women and connecting investment readiness programs with the financing environment. The modules, of course, will be delivered by experienced speakers in very practical manner. Different variety of tools will be presented to how to achieve your goals. The participation is free of charge, but please have in mind that the seats will be limited. So I'm encouraging you to reserve your spot. We will write the details of the WEgate Academy is already in the chat box. So if you are interested, please visit the website. Once again, thank you to our speakers and our participants. I hope you've enjoyed our presentations, and I will hope that you will join us in our future webinars. Have a nice day and goodbye.